Brought to you by Penguin.
Wedding Season by Fforde. Read by Cramer. Chapter 1. Sara stood by the lich gate and surveyed the perfection of the summer morning. It was June and the sun was shining with the promise of a perfect day. The church was an early English gem, surrounded by closely mown, dew-spangled grass, ancient lichen-covered gravestones and clipped yews. She'd already seen Suki the florist, who'd been there since dawn, and now some of her anxiety left her. 2 years of work had come to fruition. It was all going to be all right. Then she screamed as someone appeared from behind a tombstone. "Ah, Hugo, you brute, you gave me such a fright!" As her beating heart caught up with her brain and she realized she wasn't being attacked by a stranger at least, she went on, "You had me thinking it was Halloween for a moment there." Hugo, tall, blonde and rumpled, always gave Sara the impression that he'd just got out of bed, and not his own. "Sara, you're so sweet. I should give you up for Lent," he drawled in reply. Sara smiled. Hugo was one of the best photographers she dealt with, and they always exchanged sallies and insults, but she had deliberately never got to know him as a friend. She felt it was more sensible to keep the relationship strictly professional. "We both seem to have got our seasons mixed up." "As long as we've got the day right. Perfect for it, huh?" Sara nodded. "And you'll love the bride. She's really beautiful." "Bridesmaids?" "Darling, 2 little sweeties. We won't call them angels until we know how they behave, and 1 big one to keep them in order. Heavenly dresses." "Second families to worry about? Bride and groom's parents still married to each other and pitching up?" "Yep, marriage does work for some people, apparently." She smiled again slightly, pretending she was joking. Hugo rumbled his amusement. "Don't you believe in happy ever after, then?" "Not very often, which is why I think it's important that the wedding is as wonderful as it can possibly be." She gestured to the scene of perfection before them. "It might be the only happy memory." Hugo inspected the dew that had gathered on his perfect shiny shoe. "Honestly, Sara, if the people who pay you to organise all this knew how you feel—" "They don't need to know about my feelings, only about my ability to find the perfect venue and a personable photographer who makes everyone look fabulous." He chuckled again, taking the hint that she needed to get on, along with the compliment. "So, anything I need to know?" Sara considered. "I don't think you should have any trouble. The bride's mother has put an awful lot of energy into this and is very anxious that nothing happens to spoil that. But she's got a great hat. I'm sure she'll succumb to your ready charm." Sara could never understand why she was the only one who realized Hugo's steady charm was part of his stock-in-trade as a photographer. But she admitted that, for a wedding planner, she did have more than the usual amount of cynicism. And for good reason. She hadn't been in the business more than a couple of years, and already 2 of the perfect weddings she had organised had broken up. One barely 8 months after the happy pair drove off in a cloud of dried delphinium petals. 5 of the 6 girls from her school who had got married the moment they hit 25 had since separated. There was also her sister's debacle of a marriage, not to mention, and Sara never did, her own heartbreak, recovered from but not forgotten. No, in Sara's eyes, happy ever after was the rare exception that proved the rule. "Well, I'll just prowl around a bit more," said Hugo, unaware of Sara's thoughts. "Find somewhere really picturesque to take the less formal shots. Try to avoid grass stains on the dresses if you can, please. I always get complaints." He tipped his head and closed his already heavy-lidded eyes, indicating that while he heard her request, he wasn't necessarily going to concede to it. "It's all right for you. No one ever moans to you." "Because I'm the best," he said simply. And because he was, and they both knew it. She just said, "I'd better get back to the hotel to make sure everyone's there who should be, and not too many people who shouldn't." She frowned. "I'm still not convinced it wouldn't have been better to have the reception."
Sample complete. Ready to continue?